Oh. So yes, good evening. So we have heard that the family is engaging with government. This is good news. I think all of us, that's what we want. We want this matter to be resolved. Going to court wasn't the best way, to resolve this matter. However, government had no choice. Government had no choice, because if government had not stepped in, or if government had not taken the position that they did, by now Edgar Lungu would have been temporarily buried in South Africa. Because you can't say that burying Edgar Lungu in South Africa is permanent. No, it is temporal. It would have just been a temporal measure, just like depositing him there to be withdrawn at some point. So what government did is good, because it prevented Edgar Lungu to be buried in South Africa temporarily, because afterwards that body would have had to come to Zambia. So government did a good thing to step in. And yes, there have been back and forth, but at this point in time, since there are negotiations going on, I want to behave maturely, and I'll encourage others to behave maturely. I want to behave maturely, and I would want to encourage others to behave maturely, including Makebi Zulu himself. For starters, for me, Makebi Zulu would have withdrawn himself to allow somebody else to lead the negotiations. But anyway, he's the person that they have chosen, and he likes it. He wants to be part of it. That's fine. But I want to emphasize that I hope they will behave maturely. And I'm not talking without thinking about the words I'm using. I hope they will behave maturely. Because, you see, the problem with the family, they are the ones who have not been consistent. They are the ones who have not been consistent. They haven't been consistent. When they agreed earlier on, they changed. And they changed on flimsy grounds. The arguments that they were bringing about, they really didn't make sense. They didn't make sense. So, then from there, we have had other instances where the family has not been coming out good. The family has not been coming out good. Government has continuously insisted, let's engage. Government has been like on their knees pleading with the family. Can we please engage? Can we please engage? And yet, the statements that have been coming from the family are something else, including their propaganda. Makebi Zulu was the other day complaining to say government has weaponized the media. But really, if there is a media that has been weaponized, it is the PF propaganda. They are the ones that run, strange narratives. They are good, and they are really good at running false narratives, speculative narratives, superstition. They have been throwing in everything. So the issue of saying no, government has weaponized the media, no, it is the PF that has weaponized the media. If anything, imagine they have lost this case. Makebi Zulu and the family, they have lost this case. Imagine if they had won the case. Imagine. Look at how they ran the propaganda when the Black Jesus came in and managed to secure an adjournment. That CNDA adjournment. They were celebrating as if they have won something. They were really celebrating. So I am imploring, yeah, imploring, is it imploring? I am urging the PF and their propaganda to behave maturely. Because if they don't behave maturely, I mean, it will be very sad. It will be very sad. We will come back and we'll be talking big things around here. We were talking big things. Today I was going to talk big things. But because the negotiation has started, I will spare some of these people. But I want to tell you that please behave yourselves. Please, can you be coherent to whatever you are going to agree? What you agree, abide by it. Stand by it. And don't play a matrix like the way you did in court, in the High Court. When you applied, you said, no, the family is talking, the parties are engaging. The parties are engaging. Meanwhile, you went to the Constitutional Court to file, an appeal there. You are saying you told the judges to say, no, we want to engage. We are engaging. And yet, what you wanted is to buy time for you to go and file an appeal in the Concord. So I am hoping that these negotiations are real negotiations and not some strategy, to buy time. Because if these negotiations go well, and they are concluded, it means that on Monday, when this case comes up, the parties can simply withdraw that notice of appeal and notify the court that they have agreed. It is very simple. They can just do that. Unless they don't agree, then the case goes on Monday. For those of you that may not have followed the sequence of events, where we are is that, the family, the Edgar Lungu family, lost the case in the High Court. Lost the case in the High Court because the court ruled to say Edgar Lungu should be buried in Zambia and he should be repatriated back to Zambia and be buried there according to, a send-off befitting a former head of state. That was the judgment. The family lost this matter. But when the family lost the matter, they didn't agree with the court. They filed a notice to appeal. They wanted to appeal so that they can go to a higher court. Before the notice of appeal could be heard, on a day that the notice of appeal was supposed to be heard, the Lungu family came up and said, no, we want to engage with the family. We are engaging. So give us some time. It came up on a Friday, so the matter was adjourned to a Monday. When the matter came up on Monday, the Lungu family notified the judges to say, we have appealed to the Concord. So this matter has to stand down. And indeed, the matter had to be adjourned CNDA, had to be adjourned indefinitely. So the matter went now to the Constitutional Court. When it went to the Constitutional Court ruled to say, no, we cannot entertain your appeal here. Can you go and follow the processes? Meaning, go back to the High Court, and then it has to go to the Supreme Court, and then later on it can come to the Constitutional Court, if indeed there were merits for it to even reach the Supreme Court. So, Instead of engaging, at that point anyway, government offered, please, let's talk. And the family were reluctant. And instead, they went and notified the High Court to say, we are ready to come back and continue where we left off. So, and this is how the date was given to Monday. However, somewhere, somehow, the family has decided to engage the government, have agreed, because government has always been saying, let's talk, let's talk. So somehow the family has kind of agreed to meet the government and negotiate. And it is at this point that I'm saying that I hope these negotiations are just what they are supposed to be, and not some tricks, and not the family coming up with other issues. I just hope that they will agree, because if they agree, it means on Monday we will not have a matter on appeal. What we may have is just notifying the court to say, okay, we have agreed, and things will start unfolding towards the state funeral, towards the state funeral. I won't discuss the nitty-gritty here and there, this and that. I will not. I will restrain myself for tonight. I'm restraining myself, hoping that they will be able to discuss and reach a win-win situation and a lose-lose situation. Remember, this case, from the word go, the South African government have been very clear. They want Edgar Lungu to be buried in Zambia. The courts themselves, they have been very clear. Of course, they can't come out to say, no, but the way they have been coming out is like, really, you guys, you can talk and resolve this matter. They also, somehow, there is all the indications are pointing to the fact that they want Edgar Lungu to be buried in Zambia. So, if you like, I mean, the family are in a very difficult situation, and it will be very unwise for them to continue insisting on, going in court, because at the end of the day, they will lose this case, and it will be more embarrassing if they lose this case, and it will not look good if their boycotts and their standoffs. It will not look good. So this engagement is very good, but I insist that it will be handled maturely, more especially from the family side. From the government side, I think they have been restrained. They have been restrained. Look, they even suspended the Ralimweto. They suspended Ralimweto for the comments that he made to say the Lungu family are bitter. They suspended him. I mean, how much more can you say that the government is taking this seriously? Patrick Kangwa has issued statements telling everybody not to be making comments on the matter. So surely government has tried. President Hakainde Hichilema has been insisting. So really, I really hope that the family, the PF, Naimova propaganda team won't say you behave maturely. Ine shalandepo san. Now, what I want, that said, I want to break down, I want to run you through the Malanji case. How was the money stolen? How was the money stolen? And I'm doing this because there are people who are trying by all means to defend Bamalanji. Okay? There are people who are trying to defend Bamalanji. They want to shroud this into issue of politics. No? They want to bring in politics here. But come on, my brothers and sisters, some of these things, they are just what they are. They are just what they are. Yes, Malanji is a politician. yes, Malanje is in the opposition. But you can't start saying Malanje is being persecuted here. No. No. Who can claim that? No. Who can claim that? Who can claim being persecuted? Some of us can claim that, but not every politician, not every opposition who is in court today should claim to say, no, it's political persecution. No. Because whoever is in opposition, whenever he is arrested, whenever he is brought before court, you start bringing in politics. Cases, some of these cases are so straightforward. They are so straightforward, these cases. Some of these cases, they are so straightforward. There are very few cases which you can say, here there is political persecution. If you want an example of political persecution, it's about me. How do I come up with mutiny when I am talking about, I am pleading with the government to say, government, can you please pay our men in uniform? Pay them. When they were not paid, I spoke when they were not paid. I spoke for them. I spoke when they complained to say, we are not getting 100%, as we were promised by President Hakainde Hichilema, 100% of the allowances coming from the UN. That was a promise that President Hakainde Hichilema made. And, it was not being done a few months while she was in power. And I spoke about that. How can that turn out to be mutiny? How can that turn out to be mutiny? Because the facts were there. They were not paid. The allowances were not coming 100%. They were not coming at 100%. So those are my cases. Because I'm talking about this because a lot of you like to say, hey, but what about you? What about you? The other cases are as a result of, because I was pushing the Alebo de Rapport agenda. Alebo de Rapport agenda, and, they had to come up with funny cases. They even accused me of assaulting a police officer. So, that is political persecution. But you can't bring in political persecution. You can even see the properties. How can you bring in political persecution? Malanje store. Malanje ni kabwalala. Malanje is a thief. Malanje staged a money heist in our country. They store a lot of money. They store. There are not two ways about it. Malanje ni kabwalala. Malanje is the thief. Malanje store money. There are no two ways about it. Don't bring in politics here. There are no two ways about it. They store. Those are thieves. And they deserve to be in jail more than the 4 years that they have been given. And I'm hoping that the DPP will appeal for that sentence. Because you cannot jail in 4 years. How are you going to bring in deterrence? How are you going to make others fear corruption if you are going to be jailing people who have stolen hundreds of millions, and you give them 4 years? So I hope they will appeal that. Then the other issue that you are bringing in the issue of tribe. How can you bring in the issue of tribe here? How can you bring in the issue? Can't you see the money that Malanje stole and what he bought? Can't you see that? Where is the tribe coming in? No, UPND, Hakainde Hichilema, they are going after, it's tribal. Where is the tribe coming in? This is a straightforward case. It's a straightforward case. Then others are coming up with some petty arguments. There is no, they are fighting corruption, but there is more corruption in UPND. There is this corruption. There is 80 million there. 20 million there. 48 million there. Whatever. Agreed. We must fight corruption. We must fight past corruption and the present corruption, as well as the future. We need to fight that. But we should not be bringing up those arguments when somebody who has been caught red-handed with the money in his hands. Those are not arguments that you bring up at that point. Because now you want to bring, no, but what about this one? It's true. It's true. Some of these cases, even me, I've been talking about some of these cases, that's for sure, against the UPND. But let us not use that as if we are trying to absorb Joe Malanje for his theft. No, that is wrong. That is wrong. We cannot be absorbing Malanje by pointing out, hey, what about that? Hey, what about that? What about that? It's true, we're supposed to follow whatever that corruption. If indeed you have some evidence of some sort, let's keep talking about that corruption. Let's make sure that those who are corrupt, yes, they are followed, yes, they are arrested. But not to be using the present corruption as a way of justifying or absorbing Malanje's criminality. No, it is wrong. It is wrong. Malanje's case is clear. Malanje ni kabwalala. Malanje is a thief, and he should be jailed more years, not 4 years. Malanje needs to go in not less than 10 years. Not less than 10 years. And he has even the arrogance, he has even the audacity to go and appeal. He has the audacity to go and appeal. What is Malanje appealing? The case is so straightforward. So straightforward. Look, you see, how did it happen? How it happened is this. This is a story. And I am giving you facts as they are. You can even fact check with the NPA Facebook page. NPA Facebook page. They have put a statement there. And of course, these things were coming out in court. You see, Malanje, as a foreign affairs minister, he came up with a lucrative plan that they needed to buy properties in Turkey, okay, in Turkey, because Zambian embassy has been renting. They were renting properties where they were operating from. They were just renting. So they came up with an ingenious plan to say, no, let's buy properties so that we stop renting. Okay? But this was Malanje just cooking up things, taking advantage of that situation. And they identified 4 properties. They identified 4 properties. And these properties, they were under one router. They were under one router who had a number of properties, I think about 12 properties. But of those properties, they identified 4. I want you to follow me very well. I want you to follow me very well. Zambian embassy in Ankara, they were renting. And here is Joe Malanje. Joe Malanje looks at it. They are renting. We could buy new properties. But instead of just taking up that undertaking, Joe Malanje came up with a plan to defraud the Zambian government. They went in and identified a realtor who had a number of properties, and then they identified 4 properties. Of those 4 properties, they even got the figures. Okay, they got the figures on how much it was going to cost them. So they started the process back in Zambia to make sure that money is sourced and they send it to Ankara, to Turkey. Of course, everything was done at a supersonic speed, and shortcuts were being cut here, left, right, and center. Money was not there, but they had to find money, whatever, and they put the money together. When they put the money together, they sent the money. Now, when I'm talking about the money, when I'm talking about the money, there is somebody who is running fake figures to say this, whatever, whatever. No. The money that was put together and the money that was sent to Ankara, there was a 108 million, You hear that? 108,401,907. I'll say that again. 108,401,197. That is the money. You can, at that time, I don't know what was the exchange rate. But anyway, that is the money in Zambia. 108,401,197. This was one batch. Then there is another batch of 45,800,000. So there are two batches. There is a batch, there is 108,401,197. That is one batch. Then there is another batch of 45,800,000 kwacha, of course. This money was sent to Turkey. This money was sent to Turkey. And if you put together, if you add this money, you are having something like almost about 153 million. Roughly. You are talking about almost 153 million. That was sent to Turkey. To buy how many properties? 4 properties. So when this money was sent there, the government or Malanji, they only bought one property. They bought only one property. And this property was costing 1 million. Now this one is in dollars. Was costing 127,308, okay, dollars, in dollars. So there were 4 properties. The money that they were supposed to buy 4 properties, but they only bought one property, and this property costed them 1,127,308. This is the money they paid for that one property. However, when they were withdrawing the money, they withdrew 4.6 million. 4.6 million. 4.6 million. If you do the maths there, you are basically talking about because they paid 1,100,000 chakuti. So of that, if you do the minus, you are basically saying that about 3.5 million went in the pockets of Joe Malanji. Because what they spent is only 1.1. But what they withdrew was 4.6. So even you people who are trying to say, no, you are trying to justify, no, what about what? The question is, the money that was withdrawn, was 4.6. And yet, the property they bought only costed them 1.1 million. So where is the 3.5? Munja Suke. You answer me, you people who are trying to defend Joe Malanji. Joe Malanji, you are trying to defend him. Tell me, they were supposed to buy 4 properties. They only bought one, which costed them 1.1 million. But they withdrew 4.6 million. Where did the 3.5 million go? Where did the 3.5 million go? This is the money that Joe Malanji went and collected. And this money, by the way, was withdrawn when Joe Malanji was in Turkey. Joe Malanje was in Turkey. How did they withdraw the money? They used the money instead of paying, you see, instead of paying the realtor, they paid the lawyer, okay? The lawyer who was representing the person who was selling the houses. The person who was selling the houses had a lawyer. And instead of them paying the person who was selling the houses, they paid the lawyer 4.6. And yet they were only buying one house, which was costing them $1.1 million. You see? So the 3.5 million, that money was collected by Joe Malanje and brought back to Zambia using a presidential jet. In court, Joe Malanje said he went to Turkey with a presidential jet for a presidential mission. But that presidential mission, he has not said it. What did he go to do? What did Edgar Lungu send him to do with a presidential jet? You can't move a presidential jet without the approval of the president. It is just not possible. It is not possible. So, Balungu, may his soul, I can't say may his soul rest in peace. May his body be kept frozen at the moment. That's what we can say. We can't say may his soul rest in peace. His soul is not resting. So may his body be frozen for now until we bury him. Then we can nicely say may his soul rest in peace. So far, we can't say may his soul rest in peace. It is may his body be frozen properly. So Balungu knew about this. And of course, other people knew about this. There is that man at Mr. Whatever. Unfortunately, he also passed on. These are people that knew. Antoine Kani, Fredson Yamba, Badefide Chanyongolo. Fredson Yamba was just under pressure. He was under pressure to release the money. And he released the money because they convinced him that they are buying properties. In as far as Fredson Yamba is concerned, he was releasing the money, believing that they are buying houses in Turkey. Okay? The money was not enough. Can you imagine these people? They said the money is not enough. They even used part of the money, which was for salaries. They added on top of it. Imagine now a deal. In the Rama, because Fredson Yamba was put under pressure to say, look for money. Look for money so that we buy properties. And Fredson Yamba had to follow the orders. He had to organize that money so that they buy the properties. And that is how he sent the money. But the money was not enough. And they used part of the money, Ishama salaries. They had to top up. As if they are really doing the genuine thing. They are just stealing the money. So, in terms of Fredson Yamba, the charges that he has been given, he has been slapped with, are, at the abuse of office, failure to following the laid down procedures. Because he was under pressure to say, look for the money, look for the money. So basically, there are two counts. One count is, you transferred the money, which was not budgeted for. Okay? Which was not budgeted for. The other count is that they used part of the money which was for Ama salaries. They used part of the money which was for Ama salaries so that they can buy properties. And I know, but Fredson Yamba, there is no way he was going to take Indalama Shama salaries if he was thinking, if he knew that Vale Ibafi Indalamesh. It is because he was convinced that these people are buying properties. That is how he authorized that the money for salaries be used, to add up, to top up, so that they buy the properties. Kanshwa Mambala Vale Ibafi. They are just stealing the money. So our friend Sonyamba has been convicted on that, to making sure that, he organizes the money and he sends that money to Turkey so that they buy the properties. The money was not enough. He also authorized that, okay, use part of the money Shama salaries to Araf wire. We will replace it. That is what Fred Sonyamba has been jailed for. 3 years, imagine. And I don't know what we can do, but really, we should sympathize with Fred Sonyamba. We should sympathize with Fred Sonyamba. And going forward, we need to look at how we can protect that office of the Secretary to the Treasury, so that he is protected from undue pressure. But Fred Sonyamba acted because of the pressure that was coming. And I'm sure this pressure was coming from the president himself. Because, how do you justify the presidential jet going to Turkey to collect the money? The pressure must have been coming from the president himself. And some people say, no, but why don't you resign? Why don't you resign? Surely. Can you resign such a big position? Can you resign such a big position? It's very difficult. It's easier, some of these things, we talk about them. It's easier to talk about them when we are not in the positions. Some of us, we can fail to resign even on a small, in small positions. Now, what about Secretary to the Treasury? Anyway, but Fred Sonyamba, really, I think if there should be an appeal, there should be an appeal that his sentence is reduced, or is even given a suspended sentence. I know they are trying to set an example, but really, I don't think it's fair that somebody who is innocent like Fred Sonyamba should suffer like this. But on Joe Malangi is a kabwalala. Joe Malangi is a kabwalala. They stole money. And when they got the money, when Fred Sonyamba came, Joe Malangi came, it was time to spend. In terms of counts, Joe Malangi was facing 8 counts. 8 counts. 8 counts. Now, these 8 counts, count 1 and count 2, related to the choppers that he had. He bought 2 choppers. And so count 2, count 3 and count 4. Count 3 and count 4. Count 1, count 2 was for Fred Sonyamba. Count 1 for Fred Sonyamba was that they used money for the salaries. Count 2 was that he used money that was not in the budget. He had to source money to make sure that they sent that money. He sent this money to Turkey. So that is count 1, count 2. Now, count 3, count 4 is about Joe Malangi possessing 2 choppers. He bought 2 choppers. Now, these 2 choppers, according to Joe Malangi, he says these choppers belong to a company, Gibson Systems. Yeah, Gibson Systems. Where is that? Where did I write that name? Where is that? Gibson System. Anyway, Gibson Power System. Gibson Power System. He bought these 2 choppers out of the money that he got from Ankara. He bought 2 choppers and registered them in Gibson Power System. Okay? Gibson Power System. And according to him, in court, Fred Sonyamba, Joe Malangi said, no, these choppers, I bought them using my business money. But which business? He failed to substantiate. Because the Gibson companies that he has been talking about, they were actually broke. They were broke. So some of you are busy saying, hey, Malangi has been a businessman for a long time, whatever. Malangi clearly showed in court that he was broke. He was broke. He had no money. He had no money. He had no money. at the time when he was buying, before he bought those choppers, in his dollar account, there was no money. It was zero. In the kwacha account, he had 365 kwacha. 365 kwacha. That was the money that was in Gibson power system. Yeah? You people were saying, Joe Malanje is rich. Joe Malanje is rich. Before he went to Turkey, the bank accounts, there were zero. There was no money. In the dollar account, there was zero. In the kwacha account, more than 365 kwacha. Not 3,000. 365 kwacha. Before Joe Malanje came back from Turkey. This was revealed in court. It's Malanje himself who was testifying. Yeah? But after coming back, Joe Malanje started depositing money in those accounts. And the money that was deposited there, that is the money that was used to buy the 2 choppers. And to those accounts where they were depositing money, Joe Malanje is the only signatory. And that company, Gibson Power System, is solely owned by Joe Malanje. Is the beneficiary. Meaning ni company yakwe. And yet Joe Malanje was trying to say, no, those choppers belong to a company. Corporate veil. What are you talking about? It's your company. Yes, a company is an entity. But at the end of the day, a company is owned by individuals. And this company is owned by Joe Malanje. So you can't bring in the issue of to say, no, corporate veil. What corporate veil? No, those choppers are owned by a company. Who owns the company? Joe Malanje. Who is a signatory to the account? Joe Malanje. Who went to Turkey? Joe Malanje. Who picked the money? Joe Malanje. Who was depositing the money? Joe Malanje. What are you talking about now there? What? Even if you want to defend, you want to defend these thieves. So the court was on solid ground to convict him on count 3 and count 4. Meaning, count 1 for one chopper, count the other count for the other chopper. For those 2 choppers. Because he couldn't show where the money was coming from. Before he went to Turkey, before he started depositing those huge monies. It is clear from the court records, there was 0 in the dollar account. There was 365 kwacha in the kwacha account. After Makutaki, mambara ambokula posa mwindalam. And that is the money that he used to buy choppers. So where did Malanje get the money? Mwewale supporter, tell me, where did Malanje get the money? He failed to substantiate where he got the money. He failed. And if that company, if Malanje was rich, the bank accounts wouldn't have been 0-0. But they were 0-0. Then there is in counting. So we have dealt count 1, count 2. Yaba Fredson Yam. Count 3, count 4. Joe Malanje relating to the choppers. Therefore, we know how Malanje was convicted on all the counts. So count 3 and count 4, Machopa. Count 5 relates to Gibson Hotel, where he was acquitted. But even where he was acquitted, I am hoping that the DPP will appeal, because I don't believe he should be acquitted. Even on that one, he should be convicted. He should be convicted. Why do I say he should be convicted? On this one, Gibson Hotel, why he was convicted, the court is saying that no, he owned Gibson Hotel way before this, okay? He owned Gibson Hotel way before the Turkey heist, okay? Now, why do I say he should be convicted? Why I say he should be convicted is that, yes, quite all right. He had the hotel way before he went to Turkey to get that money. But Joe Malanje had a loan with F&B. He had a loan with F&B which dated far back to 2015. Malanje got a loan in 2015. And 5 years later, we are talking about 20. This is happening in 2020. In 2020, Joe Malanje had not paid for that loan. And the bank was foreclosing on the hotel. The bank was foreclosing on the hotel. They wanted to grab the hotel because the hotel was not making money. It failed to pay a loan. And so those of you are saying, no, Malanje is rich. Malanje is rich. If he was rich, how come he was failing to pay a loan which he had with F&B? How come he was failing to pay a loan? You are busy saying, no, Malanje is rich. Malanje is rich. He had a loan, 2015. 2015. 5 years later, he couldn't pay. Where is the richness? Where is the richness? Hey, no, Malanje is a businessman. Hey, Malanje is not your level. Malanje is not your level. Nikabwalala. Ala? Nikabwalala. Some of these people, they make us, they threaten us like, you know, they have money, they are business, they are astute businessmen. And yet, Mamambala, Nibakabwalala. Eh? Nibakabwalala. He had that hotel, he had a loan, he failed to pay. He failed to pay. Until 2020, he goes to Turkey, he comes back, and he comes and deposits 10 million in Gibson Hotel bank accounts. And that is the money that cleared the loan. That is the money that cleared the loan. So, for me, Joseph Malanje used money, Ishakwiba, stolen money, and deposited it in Gibson Hotel. Yes, the hotel, he had it before. But he used stolen money to clear a loan which was on Gibson Hotel. Which was on Gibson Hotel. And therefore, he should have been convicted on that. He should have been convicted on that, and even including the hotel grabbed. Because that's what happens. And this is what is happening in county 8, 9, and 10. If you have got a property, you buy it. And then later on, you steal money. And you pump that money in whatever property or business. And you try to, and you use that, you put the money in that business or that property. When they come to grab, they will grab everything. They will grab everything. They won't be able to say, no, there is clean money, there is 3 million clean money, I only put in 1,000. They will grab it. And that is what should happen to that Gibson Hotel. That is what should happen to that Gibson Hotel. Because the question is, where did Malanje get the 10 million? Where did Malanje get the 10 million which he deposited in Gibson Hotel to clear the loan? Where did he get that money? He should be convicted. I hope the DPP is going to appeal on this one. He should be convicted, and that property, even that property must be forfeited to the state. Because stolen money went in there. Unless Malanji shows us where he got the 10 million. Unless Malanji shows us where he got the 10 million. And again, it goes to tell you, to say, these people that you support, to say they have money, they are rich. They are not rich. They are not rich. But to Tinya fear, we might even be better off, we might even be better off. Because if we talk about Tankongol, to talk about Tankongol, no, he's a businessman. He's a businessman. He's a businessman. Businessman, Kwisa. These are just crooks. They spend what they don't have. They spend what they don't have. So, that is on count 5, where Malanji was acquitted. And the court acquitted him because they said he had the hotel before. Okay, he had the hotel before this money heist. However, from my point of view, how did Malanji clear the loan? Where did he get that 10 million which cleared the loan? Where did he get it? On that one, he should be convicted. That is count 5. Count 6 and count 7 relates to money that was deposited in Malanji's account. Money that was deposited in Malanji's account. 2 batches of money were deposited. One batch was how much? One batch was $110,000. $110,000. That is one batch. That is count 6. And another batch of $105,000. That is count 7. This money went into Malanji's account. But guess where the money came from? Guess where the money came from? The money came from, that lawyer who was representing the guy who was selling houses in Turkey. It came from that lawyer. That lawyer where Malanji went, the guy that was representing the guy selling the houses. That is where the money came from. Achani, Brahan Safi, Brahani Asaf, Brahani Asaf Safak actually, Safak. This is the guy, the lawyer. That is where the money came from. And Joe Malanji's explanation, what is Joe Malanji's explanation? Why was this guy depositing money in his account? Why? Joe Malanji says, no, they had my choppers. They had my choppers. Now, they had his choppers. This is about $215,000. $215,000. And they had ama chopper yako. Meanwhile, he had declared that from the choppers, he makes $10,000 every month. He makes $10,000 every month. That's what he declared. From the two choppers. He said, per month I make $10,000. And I'm sure some of you, but PF praise singers, you say, he makes money. Those choppers, they give him 10,000 every month. Okay, so if the choppers give him 10,000 every month, how many months does he need to make $215,000? He needs 21 months. He needs 21 months. 21 months, that's what he needs to make that kind of money. So, and it means this guy, this lawyer, would have leased the choppers for 21 months for him to pay this kind of money. For him to come and pay this kind of money. But Malanji, by the time PF was losing power, he had not had these choppers for that long. So clearly this money nika balance kashele, nika balance kashele eshobale mtumina Malanje, and it went into his account. And he's such a fool. He's such a fool. I mean, this kind of money, you are depositing it directly in your bank account. Yeah? At one point, Joe Malanje was depositing 200,000 every week. 200,000 he deposit, 200,000 every extra deposit. And that is the money that was used to buy a chopper. So anyway, in count 6 and 7, it is these monies, 110,000 and 105,000. That is the money that he was convicted for, because he couldn't account. It didn't make sense. His defense didn't make sense. So that is count 6 and count 7. Count 8, count 9, count 10 relates to houses in Silverest. Okay? He had these properties, but he had not finished paying. He had not finished paying. He had not, finished them properly. But after coming back, he managed to clear the houses, and he did this and that to the houses. He made them more beautiful. And in terms of where did you get the money, he was bringing up fake documents. That's how you had those to my business from in Congo, whatever, which didn't even make sense. So clearly Malanje failed to substantiate where he got the money. And this is a straightforward case. There is nothing like politics here. There is nothing like tribe. There is nothing like Hakainde Ichilema is fixing whatever. No. This is stealing. No two ways about it. And that is the tabulation. Nami Pela, a breakdown of Malanje's cases. And therefore Munje Imwe. Mwebale yo Malanje, tell me, pick one case and defend Malanje here. Pick one case and defend Malanje. Nimi Pela. County 3, county 4 relates to Amanankani, Amachopa. Amachopa, which he said they were bought by a company. A company, before he bought those choppers, before he came back from Turkey, the company had no money. The company had no money. Kwacha account had 365. Dollar account, 0 money. Afma kutaki, ambo kuposa mendalama, 200 pin. Akwanisha, ashta manankan. Ama chopa. Where did the money come from? That is count 3, count 4. Count 5, I am saying he was acquitted, but he should be convicted. Why? Because the hotel that you talk about, that he boasts about to say, I'm a businessman, that hotel had in Congole. That hotel had in Congole from 2015. They couldn't pay until the bank wanted to grab the hotel. And then all of a sudden, Afma Mokutaki, aposamo 10 million. He should be convicted. Count 6, count 7. It is about this money coming from Turkey, from that lawyer. What was the business? What was the business? He couldn't substantiate. Count 8, 9, 10. It relates to the houses. Where did the money come from? At no, shaf minekuli gratuity, gratuity, shana, nishinga gratuity na imweba Malanje, nishinga gratuity. They stole money. So stop defending them. Stop defending them. Instead, we should gang up together as Zambians and call for the courts to jail Malanje longer than 4 years. Let's lobby the DPP to appeal the sentences, to appeal even that acquittal. Let's lobby. Malanje should go in longer than this. Should go in longer than 4 years. Umuntu techewe ndalama shafulefya and you want to jail him 4 years. No, kwangala uko guys. Kwangala. Inshallah ndeko kuli balungu pantu balifwa and then kulia ma negotiations aya. Suffice to say that balungu knew about this. And the only thing is that I'm wondering to say, if indalama shakwa Joe Malanji, this is what Joe Malanji did. Then what about balungu? Because balungu had a share. What about indalama sha balungu? Shena shirikwi? Malanja ali samu ashitefi aleshitefi. Yeah. Nda balungu. I will not go there because the family is talking. But these are some of the issues that I wanted to talk about. I wanted to go in details. I hope they agree properly, because if they don't agree properly, these are some of the issues that I'll be bringing up. But if they agree, some of these things, naf pita, you look for peace. Yeah, you look for peace. But otherwise, those are some of the issues. Indalama shakwa malanji taivire kashiri indalama. Bali akene, and mostly, bali akene na wakateka. Nga wakateka shirikuisa. Anyway, I'm opening phone lines. Moon challenge, you ask me, ngapa, shani. I'll be able to respond where I can. But malanji nikabwalala, bad kind. Bad kind. Malanja divide. Here, there is a phone line. You can give me a call. For those of you who are watching on TikTok, my phone number is in the bio. If you check the bio, you will find my number there. You find the number which you have to call on WhatsApp. Call me on WhatsApp. Niwaka bwala abantu. Ngawa mukaka. After 3 months at yo. Free Malanji. Free Malanji. The president should pardon Malanji. Malanji is sick. Aba kabwala la baso. Malanji is sick. We not awa so. Hello?
Askia mwabomba shan.
Wina veshan mwana.
Nane wazuru kukitwe.
Okay.
Waunfo bulondoroshi. Empire. Waunfo bulondoroshi kwena buli fekiria nangwati kwena tapasoswa. Tubale chura ero muntu mbase ndempyasha fresio. Ute kwa koti na yena moya kaka muntu amaesa achepesi kwena kasambikine. Troswana ababene abalete karero. Chaba chira nkiro maironga bafukambo. So how about that view? What's that view? Amaesa yachepa bashikia yachepa. Atontara bashikia mubombe omutendo.
Atontara sana. Awe miaka nashichepa sana. Nashichepa de tumuka kwa muntu indalama shafulisheshi. Shafulisha. How many people would have benefited out of this man? How many people? So many people would have benefited. Indalama ishikutisha kule fipatala. Indalama ishikutisha shita, imiti mufipatala. A lot of people would be educated out of this man. But Malanji, ashisenda fieka. Awe na imwe. Awe. Miaka shachepa. They should appeal. The DPP should appeal on that sentence. Malanji should go in at least 10 years kuti amfika ko win. Hello? Hello?
Wandume andi mulita buino.
Nubuna veshani.
Mwino amalira.
Ture survivor kuchakuma kwisa malira na imwe turachura feva UPN ndi muli vachave chave. Ndakubona tambo kubwata pano mbwata ndetu kwafi. Nisoja kwa timule nsunga kobwi.
Tiara bache bwino muisaka mana. Toa misunga bwino.
Anyway.
Tulande ko ala ine. Ine ndepa pasrana kuti icharo tungulu shishale teke charo. Sheni tungulu shisha chani. Pantwi tungulu shishi ngamwamona. Abantu bane ibire charo endalama.
Yabasha network kabili. Yaputuka network. Imiaka bafude bashiteko add. They should add so that even those who are in government, you know, when it comes to corruption is corruption. So even those who are in government, but no. We should not mess around. We should not mess around. But if you are going to be giving them 4 years, you know, they'll continue stealing. And please, let's remove this issue of saying, no, hey, tribe, hey, opposition, persecution. Ama cases yamuyali were very straightforward. Some cases were very, very straightforward. Some of these cases, you know, you can't even talk about politics. Yali was straightforward. Some of these people committed crimes. As much as I am in exile, I mean, I shouldn't tolerate people bakabwala ngavena malanji na bambi. Hawe, no. Ero twapusana sana. Ine nshikumi kono kumako nshidingene na bakabwala la. Ine I'm a voice of the voiceless. I've got my cases which relates to speaking for my country, speaking for people. Those are my cases. Not my cases ya ukabwala la. Nshaba mwe. Ero lesali nsunga bwino. Yawe lesali nsunga bwino sana. Because really, it's like, you know, ndengilina mona na inenga na lisa ebati yo purukutu na inenkwate kwefi nganaliba muchibi. But my God has said no. Just be humble. Live your simple life, chapo. Network ile shupa ko. Anyway, ile shupa ko not at inshishi bechile chitika. Nshilipira internet. Shikweta maafu nshilipira internet. So nde wonfia basic. That's why limbiama phone ko yale shupila. I'm sure some of you are trying to call. Anyway, now I think I've made my point. Today is Friday. I will come back. I'll talk on Sunday, and I'm hoping that by Sunday we will have some news relating to the negotiations that are going on between the family and the government. I'm really hoping that that will come. Government has been very flexible. Government has been very tolerant. I am simply urging the family. I'm simply urging Makebi Zulu that please be mature and resolve this matter amicably. Let us move. So I'm hoping that on Sunday we'll be talking about something positive in as regards to Edgar Lungu's funeral. I hope that pa Sunday nishi na ineni nkwanisho kushita kontu anikane ukulipira internet nishkweto olupia ntuminaliko ndipira kwa internet noti mwakalila fe mujani na bwali koti munandisha ala. Anyway, natotera sana. Let me end here. Thank you very much. May God bless you. May God bless Zambia. Good night. Bye.